What's up, Marcy Cookies? Because you know Art here, and today I'm gonna share with you not just how to survive in this AI era we have been thrown into, but how to thrive in it. Today I will be sharing with you guys some ideas on how actual artists can use AI tools to make our work faster, make it more efficient, make us more productive, while making sure that our artworks are still original and we're not crossing any copyright boundaries. I know AI subject is still a very gray area, especially when it comes to copyright. That's why it is difficult to guarantee something like that 100%. But at least we try, and if you choose to use any of those ideas to implement in your artwork, if you follow my suggestion, you will end up with an entirely original piece, which should not be a subject to any kind of art theft or something like that. And in the end of this video, I will be sharing with you guys something I've been working on for the past 6 months, which I think is gonna become an ultimate way of AI art generation for actual artists. And with that technique, you can sleep soundly at night knowing that your work is also ethical. I think there's a huge difference when it comes to AI generating art with some guidance of a human versus artists using AI as a tool to make their work more efficient and make it better. And because of AI explosion in the past year, we've been seeing a lot of AI generated images that were basically just created from a prompt. And that's not what we're gonna be talking about today. Our art community has been really affected by the recent explosion of AI. That is true. It created way more competition because now you don't need to actually have drawing skills to sell stickers and do things like that. Nowadays, whenever AI subject comes up in an art community, people mostly picture, those AI generated images from Midjourney or like ChatGPT and things like that. Because now it is easier than ever to generate images. And I know for myself, as someone who spent over 25 years perfecting my skill and my craft, the fact that somebody can just go type in a prompt and get something within, a minute or two, and I would have to spend hours and hours to perfect my craft and then create the artwork. That is frustrating, but here we are. We live in a post-AI world now, so we're gonna have to adapt. There is a way for us to use this technology, take power back, and make most of it, while still staying true to ourselves, still keeping our art original, and still keeping it an actual art. So here are some ideas that I think you can use to make your workflow faster, more efficient, and come up with better results, and get more creative stuff done. Let's start with something that my fellow manga and comic artists can do. You can use power of AI to create backgrounds for your comics. And not just for your comics, if you're an illustrator, you can use that method to create backgrounds for your illustrations as well. Because in comic making process, backgrounds are important. We all know that. I know that's true for me when I'm working on a comic. I'm very excited about the characters, I'm excited about the actions, the emotions, everything that is going on. Not necessarily about backgrounds. And not even so much because they're not interesting, they're very interesting. It's just because I suck at it. There are some artists that are great in environments and they do beautiful environment art. That has been a big challenge for me. I spent a long time learning how to paint the environment. And if I have an option to speed this part of process for myself, I'm gonna try that. You can even use your own background images if you want to replicate them and have them, let's say, from a slightly different angles, or just keep the colors to make your work faster. You can feed those same images into the AI software and it will give you similar images. So for the past year, ever since the whole AI thing started, first thing I knew is that we will need to figure out a way how to use it, but do so without exploiting other artists' artworks, and do so to keep our art as original as possible. I've dedicated a lot of time learning those software to figure out how to do it. And so if you do want a separate video on how to do some of those things, let me know in the comments below. Because this is not an AI channel, so I'm not necessarily trying to make AI tutorials here. But if you guys, my fellow artists in the community, want to see how to do this, want to try those techniques yourself, let me know in the comments below and I'll make a video. But let's keep moving. Oh no! Shit. I thought my whole script went down. Okay. Next thing you can do is take advantage of AI tools that creative programs offer. There are tons of useful AI tools that keep on coming onto different creative platforms. For example, if you already have Photoshop and you have been working on this illustration for a very long time, but now you suddenly need it in a poster format and you have a square for example, right? You have already spent so many hours working on this piece, and maybe you need this poster tomorrow, or maybe you need to post right now, maybe you need, I don't know, Instagram reel or whatever. It's so demanding for artists nowadays that we don't have, honestly, we don't have time to change the format of the image that we have created, which is where I think Photoshop's AI generative tool would come super useful. Tools like this could be great time savers. So if you have different creative software, I highly recommend checking out what do they offer, if they have any new AI tools, because they're updating quickly. They're all fighting and trying to get this first spot now that there are so many AI tools coming out. So if you have Adobe Creative Suite, you're good. You have so many tools to look at, for example. And there are many more tools and many more softwares coming out. So I suggest be a little bit more open and check out what those tools have to offer, because maybe one of those tools could be a huge time saver for you and make your work much more efficient. While we're still on the subject of image generation, next thing I have for you is the references. Do you remember spending hours and hours on Pinterest looking for that one perfect reference of that person in that pose or that setting, or maybe that color and that lighting? Do you remember that? I remember looking for that person, looking for the reference, getting lost in all of the beautiful images and things like that, and basically spending my entire night in Pinterest and not getting any art done. Well, now we can actually generate a specific reference that we're looking for, instead of searching for it for hours. And another plus is that this reference will be unique, so you're likely not gonna see a bunch of other artists using that same reference on like Instagram. And while we're on the subject of image generation, I just want to remind you guys that if you do generate any AI images, if you use any artist names or styles, make sure to give credit to the artists. We're all in the same community here, and that's just a matter of respect, respecting each other's time, respecting each other's work, and things like that. It is a good idea to be transparent about those things with your community, especially since this is still an original work. You're only using parts of AI generated images. So I think if you only use AI generated image as a small part of it, and your work is very different from what the AI generated image is, you could maybe even classify as a collage kind of art or compositing or whatever you want to call it, but it is original. Just make sure that if you do use any artist names, to give them credit. Okay, we're done with AI image tool for now. Let's move on to other medias and we'll circle back to it. This next one I have very mixed feelings about, because I am an animation producer. I've dedicated my life to animation. I have a degree that I spend money and time on. But at the same time, like, it's a pain, but also at the same time, I'm kind of excited about where it's gonna go and how our industry is gonna change thanks to it. And I'm talking about AI animation generation and video generation. I feel like nowadays, every other month, there is a new AI animation tool popping up. And because of the nature of my work, I try my best to stay current and know all of the animation tools and everything that is going on. That includes AI. So I have tested majority of AI animated generation software out there. And I can tell you guys, considering it hasn't even been a year, it is crazy how fast the technology got to the level of us being able to create actual animation, some of which is even realistic, or a fully generated AI video just using your computer in only a year. And if before, even for the simplest animation, in my line of work, you would have to have a team to create even the simplest animation. You would have to have animators, layout artists, and they would have to spend hours and hours just drilling and animating a simple movement. Now there are tools that can animate the whole thing for you. But that doesn't mean that animators are gonna be replaced. No, no, no. If anything, that's gonna make our work much better. If you're an animator, you can save so much time using AI tools now. For example, if before you would have to have animated background and a main character and all of this, like you would need a team or you would have to spend crazy amount of hours and time and energy on this. Now, let's say you animate the main character on the foreground yourself, or characters. But then you can have slightly animated background generated with AI in the background, with things like, I don't know, wind blowing on the grass and things like that. And because in our industry things change so quickly, where you worked on this animation or this background for weeks, and then you suddenly get a feedback where they've decided, oh wait, instead of grass there, we actually wanted to snow. Well, hell, I just wasted all of this time working on something that they didn't even need in the end. Now we can use AI tools to do this for us, and you're not gonna feel so bad if they're gonna make those last minute changes. And they will get to see it quicker, so they will make up their mind hopefully quicker too. And I think because us artists, we do know our craft, we have that skill, that makes us so much more powerful. Basically what I think is us artists combined with AI in the modern AI world will basically make us like superheroes. Because imagine if normal person with no drawing skills or compositing skills or knowledge of color theory, perspective and all those things, if those people can generate images that look decent with those tools, right? Imagine what we can do if you already know how to animate, and then you can now animate with AI, and then take that and build on top of it. Imagine what you can do as a 3D artist and do the same thing. Take AI, use it, and then build on top of it. Our skill still matters a big deal. Because in my opinion right now, what's happening is not that AI is replacing artists, it's more that people are using AI to compete with artists. But imagine what can happen if artists start using AI and then adding their skills on top. We're gonna dominate this game! So imagine if you're an animator, you already have a pretty decent set of skills. And now you have this AI tool that can help you either generate animation base or help generate proof of concepts. So you don't have to spend hours and hours animating and spending money and all of that to pitch something. You can do this directly using AI. Or if you're an illustrator and you have no animation knowledge whatsoever, but you would like to see your illustrations come to life, now you can do this with those animation tools. You can add even more creativity into your artwork by animating it and literally bringing it to life using those tools. I think out of all of the tools I've tried so far, the top 3 easily would be Pixelabs, Runway and Kyber. I think all of these 3 options are great, but it just depends on what exactly you want to do and what kind of video or animation you want to create with it. When it comes to AI tools and animation, one of the new softwares I recently found out about, which I think is amazing, and that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say we as artists should be using AI as a tool. Cascadeur does exactly that. It basically gives you an ability to animate in 3D, but you get to skip over boring steps that we would normally have to do and waste our time on. AI takes care of that, but then us as artists, we get to actually focus on creative aspect of animation, and I think it's amazing. There are a bunch of reviews of this software online already. You can check it out. I haven't tried this myself yet because I only found out about it recently, and it is an actual animation software. It's just heavily powered by AI tools, so it doesn't generate image or video with AI. It actually uses AI tools to assist animators in their workflow and help them skip over the mundane steps we would have to normally take in order to animate, in order to add physics, in order to do 3D simulations and things like that. Another exciting thing we can now do using AI is creating 3D models. Yes, that is correct. We can now create 3D models based on an image that you feed it. Of course, the technology is not exactly there. Right now, it's only in entry stages. But there are a few major companies that are working on this technology, so I'm sure it will be able to generate more complicated, high poly models in a rather short amount of time. But then again, 3D modelers, please don't freak out. You can use this as a tool to make your work faster. That's not going to replace you, because the knowledge that you have, the skill that you have, knowing the software, knowing how to properly adjust polygons, all of those things are still going to be very useful, even when we will be able to generate 3D models with text, or when we'll be able to generate 3D models with just one image or a few images. Your knowledge is still valuable. Those skills are still valuable. Those skills will be valuable, because then you will be able to create high quality models that you would normally create, but much faster, since you don't need to spend all of this time on mounting the general shapes. You can get straight into details. I'm sure you can go into Blender or ZBrush and unleash your creativity on top of what AI already created. And that's what I mean, making us superheroes. Unleash your creativity, play around and make beautiful 3D models. And another thing is, if you're not a 3D modeler, but let's say you are an illustrator and you always wanted to have it printed as a 3D model, now, or at least very soon, I think you will be able to do that. You can already have your character generated in 3D based on just an image with the technology we have right now. But so far from what I've seen, their renders look pretty low poly, although it is very good considering it's only one image and it's rather a short time for such generation, but still technology is not quite there. But I'm sure it will be there very soon, and then you'll be able to create all kind of stuff. Also, you could like and subscribe while you're at it. That would be very helpful for this channel. Thank you very much. And by the way, while we're still on the subject of animation, I want to mention that I know for a fact that there are a few companies right now working on AI generation technology for texture. And that is also another thing that you could be playing around with, because I think that's gonna be a big thing in the industry in the future. And I will make sure to talk about it more in my future video. Okay, let's keep moving. So all of those ideas have to do with how to use AI as a tool for our creative process. But I also wanted to make sure that I include practical ways of how we can use AI on a daily basis as artists. Social media, caption, text generation. Do you ever get this feeling when you're just trying to get your art out there in social media, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, YouTube, anywhere you want to put it, and you have no idea what to say? You have already spent so much time creating the artwork. Then thank you for short form video content. Now we also have to spend time editing videos for some reason and putting them on a platform. Thank you, Instagram, for adding that feature. And after all of this, you still need to write captions. I don't know, I get so annoyed sometimes. And while I want to say 70% of time, I still write my own captions, or at least most of it, because I do want to be genuinely connected with my audience. Sometimes I just have an idea of what I want to talk about. I just don't want to spend time writing it out. Maybe I'm missing out some practical advice because I haven't actually used paid ChatGPT myself, but I feel like for now, for me, the free version is enough, and for these purposes, it would be enough for you as well. So you can just use ChatGPT and ask it to write a caption for you. Help me write a caption for my Instagram. It should be talking about, and then you just include, like, let's say, I don't know, whatever you want to talk about in short, and then it will write it out for you, and it will even suggest some hashtags for you to use. Or on some platforms, you are actually limited by how much text you can actually write. I know it used to be the case for Twitter, before, back in the day. I don't know about now. I don't use Twitter nowadays at all, but back in the day you were limited by how many characters you have. That's also the case for YouTube Shorts. I'm not sure what other platforms have that, but whenever you are limited by words and how many words you can include, ChatGPT and other AI language models are great, where you can actually tell it what you want to talk about and then let it know that you want it to be only, I don't know, 200 characters or whatever the limitation is, and it will just shorten it for you while keeping your idea, which I think is great. You can even write out the whole thing. Let's say you have exactly something that you want to say, and ask it to shorten it to that many characters. And you can even ask it to give you 5 or 10 or however many versions that you want to see of different variations of this, so you can choose the best representation of what you're trying to say. I also know that a lot of us artists now use YouTube as a platform as well. It is getting more and more popular every year. I do wish that I started back in 2012, but we're where we are, and you know what, I don't regret it, because now I have much more knowledge and experience to share with you guys. So when it comes to YouTube, I think one of the dominating companies that actively uses AI in their workflow, and that is something that I've tested myself. I think it's actually great and worth it. If you do want to put more work into YouTube, I would recommend using vidIQ. They do have a lot of AI tools that are actually useful. I think they're great because their AI tools actually work. It actually gives you a pretty good picture of where you should be heading. And what I also like is that you can get a personal approach. It kind of feels like, you know, you have a personal coach that is taking a look at what you've done so far and kind of helping you with like the direction you should be going. Let's say if you are creating art tutorials for your channel and you do want to grow on YouTube, but it is a lot of competition out there, especially when it comes to art tutorials, I feel like vidIQ would be a great option. I think it's just generally a great tool to use for any YouTuber or creative who is trying to create video content, and that's why I had to bring it up, because it is very practical and I do recommend it. And they did not sponsor this video, this is just my genuine opinion. And since I brought up YouTube and video creation and constant need for us artists to create reels and YouTube shorts and videos and all of this video content, it is getting more and more demanding, and we as artists, on top of everything, have to also be our own editors. And I honestly feel lucky that I've started editing when it was first available to people. It was very early on, so I started learning very early. But I realized that a bunch of artists never actually touch on editing, and it must be very confusing and it must take so much time, considering that you already have to spend so much time on the actual artwork. Then you're probably gonna have to spend time filming yourself drawing and all of those things, and then by the end of the day you also have to edit it. Which is where, again, I feel like AI is a great tool. There are a bunch of different AI powered editing software now. There are phone apps, there are different software that you can use. I personally tried out and liked Gling, just because, I do those talking videos and it does speed up my process, so I actually like that. Basically, if you talk a lot like me, you can maybe try that. But it's because I share a lot of verbal information in my YouTube, and I talk a lot. So if you do talk a lot in your videos, maybe you can try that. Another software my friend recently recommended to me is CapCut, which I'm only getting to know, but so far from what I've tried, I think it's actually a good tool, so you can give it a try as well. And finally, I do want to share with you guys a little project I've been working on for the past, I want to say, 6 months. You might know that I've been working on a Webtune comic, and that's been going on for over a year now. And if you've seen it, and if you haven't, check out the link below. Check it out, I would appreciate it, especially if you like comics and webtoons. It is an interesting story. And so when I started a year and a half ago, I was crazy enough to go for semi-realistic style. Yes, I did that to myself, I know. I made it so that every single panel is basically its own digital illustration, which is killing me. I mean, I love how it's turning out, and I think generally I have a good response, because I really wanted people to feel like they're watching a movie instead of reading comic. I really wanted them to imagine the story the way I did. And that's why I decided I'm gonna go for a crazy semi-realistic digital painting style with lighting and stuff and all of that, and complicated details and uniforms and all of that. But honestly, I am happy I took on this challenge. And then along the way, as I was working on my webtoon, about a half a year later, the whole AI outburst happened and all of those tools started popping up. So I started to wonder if there was a way for me to use this technology to make my workflow faster, so that I could actually create episodes faster than I do. Because every single episode take me, I want to say, if it's not a long episode, it can take me about 2 weeks to create. Sometimes a month, depending on the length, depending on complication of the scenes. I've been trying to figure out a way how to make myself more productive, how to make my workflow more efficient, and how can I get the episodes out faster. So I started thinking about, okay, there's this AI technology, but how can I use it? And naturally AI came to mind just because it was everywhere at the time when I was starting thinking about it. But I was concerned because I wanted to make sure that by doing so, I'm not exploiting other artists' work. And so finally, I came up with a solution for this, which is, again, I cannot 100% say it's a perfect solution, because I'm sure in the roots of it, there is still data that I'm not aware of. So I cannot say 100% for sure that I know how it works. But if I'm going to use this technology, the least I can do is do my best to figure out a way to do this ethically, to figure out a way to make this work actually mine. So what I did was I started to training my own AI model based only on my images. And the reason it took me over 6 months is because in order for it to be trained on my images, it needed to have more of my images. And I have a lot of fantasy related digital paintings. But for the purpose of this, I needed more drawings of my characters. I needed a lot more drawings of the style I was going for, because I wanted to train the machine to help me with backgrounds, or sometimes with posing characters. Because honestly, even 6 months after, I'm just starting to test it. and it still takes me a long time because I still have to draw a bunch on top of it, but at least it does save me some time now. I spend a lot of time painting my characters, the settings, everything that feels like the style of a comic that I want to have, in different poses, in different settings, especially in the settings where I know I want to see my characters more. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and I drew so many images. So I spent a lot of time just drawing those images so that I could train this model. And honestly, it's still not perfect, because realistically, to make it better, I would need more images, which is, you know, I'm still working on this. But only recently I started testing it, and it actually helps. Now, that doesn't mean that once I've trained this model, I just type in like what I want to see in my style and it will come up perfectly the way I want it. No, I will still have to draw a bunch on top of it, but at least it gives me the base in my style, and then I can draw on top of this instead of drawing the whole thing from scratch and then work my way around. So it does save me a lot of time, because it's by no means perfect, but it is definitely a progress in the right direction. And honestly, I just like the fact that I'm using my own images instead of using somebody else's images that the model was trained on. If that's something that you want to try as well, there are actually many channels that I saw who teach you how to do that. But if you cannot find a video that you like, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I can make one as well where I can show you how I've done that. Thank you guys for watching. I try to contribute more of my free time to help young artists and empower the art community. So I hope you found this video useful. Let's keep on going. We can do this. And I'll see you guys next time.